The last flower in the Serenity garden that I want to show you is the Tassel Flower. It's an annual, maybe a perennial, but it's considered herbal because lots of herbalists, especially Mexican herbalists, have used it to treat headaches, high blood sugar, digestive issues. So it's one of those versatile flowers in the garden. It's unusual, but it does, it lives up to its name, looks like a tassel. So we're going to create that tassel by cutting out, so the larger petals you'll cut out 4 times, then you've got a next to the largest 3 times, and then this smaller one 2, and then finally the roll up will be 1. And then you have, it is on a long stem. They're very, they're tall plants. They make for unique garden additions, and floral arrangements. But I will kind of recommend you put them in containers, only because they can get aggressive or invasive. So on the stem part that will hold the tassels, you do want to cut it twice. And I've done it here. Let's move these aside a second. And I've cut these out of watercolor paper. Now I've done that because of the durability. These will be heavy kind of flowers when they're placed inside. So we are going to glue, one on top of the other. And these have a nice bright green stem. So I'm going to use, what is this, YG 1.6 and YG 2.5 to color these. Now, a little note that the tassel flower actually symbolizes resilience, beauty, and fearlessness. So if you're thinking of, giving a lovely bouquet to someone who's been a strong person in your life, you might want to add the tassel flower to it. I'm brightening this up using the 2.5 over it. Now, when you color the other side, you just really need to color a little bit down. This is where it's going to hold that tassel flower. But we're going to glue the stems together, so you don't really have to be, too exact, but color them. And then because this is going to go on top of it, we're just going to color this part. And then the underside will get, so this is actually the wrong side of the stem, but will be the underside of the complete stem when you put them together. And even though I'm not going to see too much of it, I am going to lighten it up a little bit, especially in areas where you do see it. Okay, that's the coloring. There are some little embossed striations on this top side. So if you want to go over them with a fine line pen, it's just to symbolize that dimension or that little bit of detail there of your calyx. So I'm going to put it on our mat, and this time I'm going to use that large ball stylus. So this is the right side part. I'm going to first really kind of press down and get these to shape up a bit in that rounded area. This will be what will hold the flowers. Now on this side, it's going to be this part, this one that you didn't color all the way down. And then we can grab some glue. I always like to test test it out a little bit just to make sure it doesn't squirt out. And I'm just going to line this long stem with some of this. It's Zip Dry by Beacons, but you can use any of your clear glues that you want. I just like that it dries very quickly. And then, whoops, just match up your stems. And I don't worry about any of that glue that comes out because it's not going to show. It's going to dry perfectly clear. I'm just opening these a little more with my hands. Now, since that one's wet, I'm going to put it aside just for a second. I have one here done and glued so you can see. And then go back, and these little projections here, you're just going to fold down. I'm going to open this up a little bit more for the flowers. It has this unique shape. It's almost like, I say, like a little cup that's holding the flowers. So that's what it should look like when your stem is finished. So the colors it comes in is varying shades of orange, from this kind of medium shade that I'm going to use to a very like almost dark red or a reddish orange color. And then you do see some red ones, and also almost scarlet and pink, and even I guess you would say it's violet, like a light violet color. So you've got some colors to play with to add to your bouquets, and you're just basically going to color the pieces on both sides. Now I've just used the one color. I'm not really shading that much. When you go over it from the coloring from the center going out, you do end up darkening that center a little bit. So you're going to color all these shapes. And with the magic, I have them all colored here. And then as you can see, each one, I'm going to take one of these that I just colored. See where the little division is there, that little notch? You're going to cut each one of these projections in half, right down the center. And you're going to do that on all the pieces. So I've done that here. And then on the little roll-up one, you're also going to color it. See if I can pick it up. But you're going to, there's little notches in that one too. So you're going to cut each one of those in half. And then grab that little tail. And right down the bottom there, just go ahead and paint some glue on it. This one gets rolled up. The rest of them will get cupped. So we can roll this up. It's actually going to be your center, and you can open this one up a little bit with your fingers. So starting with these larger pieces, you're going to take the medium ball stylus and really cup in the center. Now don't worry about making them too tight right now because we're going to put them in our molding tray. I'm just going to get a older mat here so I can set them on and glue them. I put a hole in each center of the first 7, the large and then the medium, just because there's so many pieces being stacked one on top of the other, kind of release some of that thickness in the center by adding that little hole. So don't worry about that. But that's why I glue on this dirtier mat, as I call it, just so as I'm pressing down, I know glue's going to go through that a little bit. But so then you go to your next size, and there's 3 of those, and those are also going to get cupped. You just press down, really give it some, pressure there. And these are going to be stacked. And finally, those last 2, I'm going to switch to the smaller ball stylus, the tiny one, and really get that one cupped up. So I'm pressing to get it to shape up a little bit. And make sure these are all, sometimes it's just as good to use your, even though I get glue on the bottom, you can wipe that off. I want to make sure they get really stuck down there. Now this one I can poke with my tweezer. And finally, that little center that we rolled up. So I'm going to use this 5/8 inch. And what I'm doing is just pinching that together. Don't worry about the top part here. We're going to put it in, and then we're going to start playing with it. When you make tassels, you do exactly this. When you put the yarn or the embroidery floss, however you're making tassels or whatever you're making it for, you're fluffing it out. And sometimes I just take it out of this and fluff first. And then I'm going to form it in there. Doing just like you do when you make tassels. And see how nicely that forms, and yet it's got that rounded bottom. So you're going to bring back in your stem, and I haven't put it in the on my piece yet, and I'm going to take and put some glue right down in there. And I'm also going to paint some glue onto this, because I really want it to hold securely. And just like that. So again, we'll just get a little tighter. There. Again, paint some glue on either side of these, your calyx, and then into the the flower. Oh, I didn't put any on the flower. Well, let's put some on the flower. I just want to make sure it really holds. And after they dry, you can go back and still play with it a bit if you want them out tight or, looser like that. But that's what it looks like. Here's the one I just made, so hopefully it's set a little bit. But again, put your glue inside, and then let's paint some glue on the outside here of the flower. Now while we do the leaves, I'm going to let this set. And you know what you can do? You can put it right into your small 1/4 inch there. So I'm going to grab those two colors again, the YG 1.6, oops, and the YG 2.5. The leaves are also serrated, just like the primrose. So it's double serrated on the side. Now I'm darkening that a little bit by adding some of that little bit of YG 1.6 onto my glass mat, so it's not quite the contrast. But I do like that yellowish green. Let me do the underside. And then you want to bring in your leaf pad. With the wrong side down on your leaf pad, you're going to add that stem line. And then I'm going to pinch them to crease that stem line on the right side. And always a little bit of color with the pan pastel to accentuate that stem line. And then you can go back and add your veins. Okay, so I thought I'd pair it with my Clematis Poet, just because I love purple and orange together. I think it's a striking color for the season. Go. Now I'm going to set that in place. And like I said, once that, I still see some white of the glue, but that is going to dry perfectly clear. And then once it's dried, I can go back and play with it as far as adding a little bit more fullness to the tassel. But they are pretty tight. I mean, if you look them up, they're found in Asia and Africa, but in the Americas too. I'm sure a lot of you in Florida may recognize them because they grow in Florida. We're a little bit cool here. It probably wouldn't last through the winter here. They'd probably die back. Besides, this little fern is a new little foliage from this release. It's called Poetic Foliage. It's got those dropped berries or those little berry branches, and it's also got a couple of leaves, different leaves and branches that you can use. These are just a little finer for the Serenity garden. Oh, if you wanted to see how I shape these, I just pinch my leaves, and then on the end I'm going to give it a twist so it gives it a little bit of dimension there. And we can even put some leaves behind it. And depending on how many branches you do, you can do as many leaves as you like. I think I recommend 2 to 3 per branch, but it's always your bouquet, so you can do as many or as little as you like. I'm going to try to slip that one right in there. There we go. And then, so let me grab the other tweezers here. So I do have a couple of these berries done. Like I said, you can add them there. It's a little finer. Let's put some right up here with the orange. There we go. And then we just need to do our ladybug. So I had the red first. My poor eraser is getting so dirty. Well used. Lots of ladybugs have been made on this. And then just take your small ball stylus, and on this nice, I also cut my ladybugs out of some of the watercolor paper because you've got, you know, little spaces, so it makes sense to do it. There we go. It's a little bendy card with a cute little, a very nice quote. Art is increasingly effort to compete with the beauty of flowers and never succeeding. I think that's true. Nature has us beat. But that is your tassel flower. I hope you like it, and it adds quite a stunning effect to any of your bouquets.